Have you ever walked into your fish farm and you discover that your fish are floating lifeless? It is heartbreaking, isn't it? But don't worry, you are not alone. Fish deaths are one of the biggest challenges fish farmers face. And today I'll be showing you one of the reasons or some of the top reasons why your fish might be dying. And most importantly, how to fix it. Make sure you watch till the end and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you get more videos on farming tips. Now we'll be talking about some of the causes why your fish die. Number one is poor water quality. I will keep emphasizing on water quality because it is the secret for success in fish farming. Now, these are the symptoms you will see to know that the water quality is poor, which is fish begins to gasp for air. They come out on the surface of your water culture in order to take in fresh oxygen so as to survive. This is signifying that the dissolved oxygen in the water is limited because there is high competition in the water. So most of them will come to the surface of your pond in order to receive fresh oxygen because fish have two respiratory organs, the one they use in the water and the one they use externally. So this is their strategy for survival within the shortest period of time, and it is also the sign they show to the fish farmer so that the water will be changed. Now the causes for fish gasping for air is low oxygen. Number two is ammonia and nitrate buildup. Number three is pH imbalance. Now, how do we fix this cause? Number one is that I will always advise that after 3 days, the farmer should change 10 to 20% of the water in your culture media, of the water in your pond. It is highly recommended so that you'll be able to maintain the optimal level of oxygen required for the survival of your fish. Number two is to do a regular check of your pH, ammonia and nitrate. This should be done regularly. That is why you need to have your pH scale, ammonia testing equipment as a fish farmer that is ready to do business. Okay, the second reason why fish die is disease outbreak. Symptoms. The things you need to check in order to know that there is disease outbreak within this pond or in this farm is number one is patches on their bodies. You begin to identify some red patches. Other symptom is swollen bellies. Another symptom is fin rot. The fins, it might be the dorsal fins. Mostly is the dorsal fin. You begin to see as if it is eating up. It is a sign that your pond is infected. What are these causes? It can be bacterial infection, fungal infection, parasites. It can also be stress due to handling. Peradventure, you just change your water maybe in the middle of the day when the temperature is high. This will incur stress on the fish. And by so doing, if there are any pathogen in your farm or in the water, they are easily infected. So how do we fix this challenge? Number one is that when we begin to see these signs, we do what we call salt baths. I will do a video on salt baths and the amount of salt to do, the type of salt baths we have. So stay tuned for that video. Number next, maintain good hygiene. That is why we hit it hard on fish farmers to ensure that their farm is biosecured. It's not everybody that comes to your farm that you will just, it's not everybody that comes to your house you just take into your farm just because you want them to know that you are into this business. Remember, there is disease outbreak and bacteria are littered everywhere. Number last is isolate sick fish. The moment you discovered that there is an infestation of disease in a particular pond, drain the water, remove those ones that you have identified that are sluggish or with patches, as we have earlier mentioned. Separate them to a quarantine pond and treat them from that pond. Because if you leave them in that same pond, the disease will break out and you will lose huge. Okay. The next common reason why fish die is overfeeding. I repeat, overfeeding. I know a lot of farmers are always excited when they see that their fishes are responding to the feed they are giving them, but they fail to know that for every day, there is the exact amount of feed to be administered to them. And this is calculated by body weights. This is a different topic for another day. So, overfeeding leads to death. The common symptom here is that you discover that the water that is transparent becomes cloudy, and the smell that is always fresh becomes offensive. It is as a result of the too much amount of feed we administered on our farm. Causes. Now, uneaten feed will rotting, and when they rot, they pollute the water. That is what leads to the offensive smell and the cloudiness of our water. And this uneaten feed settles down and begins to build excessive nutrients in the pond. And because photosynthesis is a law that must take place, when there is nutrient, there is sunlight, it builds up what we call algae. And it leads to algal bloom. So there is high competition of oxygen between your fish and the algae. So it also leads to depletion of oxygen. So how do we fix the challenge of overfeeding? Very simple. Feed your fish with the required amount of feed. When you know how to calculate the amount of feed by their body mass, you will know the exact amount of feed to give them. And fish and the feed you administer to your fish must be consumed in 5 to 10 minutes maximum. Any other feed that is still floating on the water should be removed. This advice will save you a lot. Will save you expenses from your feed and will save you expenses from mortality. Lastly, on the cause of fish death is poor handling or transportation stress. Now the symptom is fish jumping or swimming abnormally. Second symptoms you will see is visible injuries on their body. And the cause of this is simple. Change in temperature and pH in your water can lead to fish jumping out or swimming abnormally. Poor handling during sorting can lead to visible injuries on the fish, which will lead to disease outbreak. Because if bacteria should begin to set in on the injuries, it begins to grow bacteria and it can lead to high mortality rates in your farm. So how do you fix this? Salt baths. Very important. As a fish farmer, you must know what salt baths is all about. Number 2 is acclimatization. When you bring in your fish from far distance or from another pond into another pond, you must know that the water quality of that pond is different from this pond. So fish must be introduced into the pond gradually so that with time they will adjust to the new environment. And by so doing, they are not stressed and they are not injured.